everybody. Welcome to the Daily Self-Publishing Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Sutton. I'm here with my friend for part two, Paula Jean Ferri. As I said before, she is the author of Awkwardly, Tragically, Fearfully Strong. Those are three books: Awkwardly Strong, Tragically Strong, Fearfully Strong. And we're going to talk about her books, why she wrote them, how she did it. We're going to talk about pen names and just all kinds of amazing stuff. So, Paula, welcome back.
Thank you so much. Excited to be back.
Yeah. So we talked about in our first episode when we talked last time about, the why you decided to write a book, what was the hardest part, what was the most rewarding, but kind of go into a deep dive of really what you're doing now with your business after writing these books.
So after writing all of these books, I feel like it took a while to kind of get centered and zeroed in on what I wanted to do. I started out wanting to help people with Tourette syndrome, since that was what kind of sparked that first book. That was my main audience. They weren't exactly receptive, which now that I know more about the community, I totally get it. That's more of a volunteer side. But what I have noticed is I'm really good at ideas. Like even talking to me, people are like, oh, that's a good idea. Ooh, I suddenly have this great idea. I started studying creativity a little bit more because I never considered myself a creative. I thought I was far too logical to do something like write a book until I realized after publishing, I think it was my second one, hey, maybe I am creative. I did create something. Creation is basically something that didn't exist before, whether that's a relationship, conversations, a podcast, a book. It doesn't necessarily have to be artistic. Even ideas, problem solving requires creativity. You can use logic for that. So now I'm focused more on creativity, helping people get ideas, and expanding that into all areas of their life, such as problem solving.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny you talk about creativity, and I'm a physical therapist. I talked about this many times. And yesterday I was creating a splint for somebody's toe, which I've never done before. And I had some occupational therapy friends helping me, and I was like, man, I really love this stuff. Like it's because you make something out of nothing, which is, like I said, a podcast, a book, a music, mm-hmm. whatever it is. And it's such a rush is not the right word to talk about it, but it's just such a great feeling to create something that was never there. It's
very satisfying. It's very satisfying. Is that the word?
Yeah, I think so. And it's because it came from your mind and it didn't exist before. I just think it's amazing. I just love that kind of stuff. So you wrote your books. I know you already told me you have number 4 almost done. Number 5 is getting in the planning phase. So, why books? Why not do something else?
Because I just express myself so much better writing. If I'm having a rough day, I've always been a big journaler, whether or not I was in my I'm going to write a book phase when I was, in the middle when I kind of lost that phase. Journaling and writing really got me through college. So I've spent so many hours of my life just writing over pages. I feel like I might express myself better that way. And it's again, just something more satisfying. Like, yeah, I can come up with an idea, but having that idea and then following through to the end, again, super satisfying. It's always something new, which is exciting, and it keeps me passionate about it.
Yeah, I love that. So talking about ideas and being creative. So Paula Jean Ferri is not your real name. That's your pen name. So tell me about why you decided to go with a pen name.
There were several reasons, actually. The first and foremost being the fact that my name is Jessica Smith, and that is not searchable on the internet. Yeah. I feel like it's almost, we always joked that it was my witness protection name growing up because it was just so common. It couldn't actually be real. And I wanted to be searchable. I wanted people to be able to find my books and not confuse me with that other Jessica Smith who's also writing books, because there are a few of those as well. So that was the big main reason, is to be searchable, findable, have that leverage on social media. The other reason kind of came about as a joke with my first book being about Tourette syndrome and how it affects communication. My Tourette syndrome has its own personality. These tics come out with their own mind. They do funny things that I have zero control over. So I've named them because it's kind of like an alternate personality. I call them Paula. That name came out long before I even wrote my books. It's just always been there. But when we were joking about, we should give Paula some credit in like the dedication acknowledgement section, and I let out this loud scream, and we're like, oh, Paula must really enjoy that. What if we actually like made her the author? And someone at the other end of the building heard me scream that time. I'm like, that's it. I have to do it now. I have to have this pen name after my Tourette syndrome.
That's so funny. I love that. And you really broke it down to three great things: is be searchable, leverage your social media, and have an author personality. And I know that personality takes on a new meaning with what you're talking about, but I think it's good. I mean, because we have to get in the right headspace to write. You can't, you can't just be having a conversation and say, oh, I'm going to write my next novel. You have to really get in there. So I like that.
Right.
Love it. What have you found that there's been any really complications to having a pen name, or is it just go on and
No,
go?
I don't think there has been. I think the only time there was again in the beginning when you don't know what you don't know, and I didn't know how that would affect like payments and banking. But what I've done is I've created a business that's registered with the state of Utah where I live, and my business name is Paula Jean Ferri, so I can still do business under my name or the name Paula Jean Ferri, and it's really not a problem.
Yeah. What were some of those? Because I thought about doing a pen name. Everything I talk about now is about publishing and writing, or self-publishing and writing. And so I have that book coming out soon, but I want to write some children's books. And I'm thinking, I don't really want people searching for Jeremy Sutton and finding the children's books, because that's really kind of going to be a passion project. I want it to be something else, and I have no idea what it'll be. But what were some of those early mistakes with having the pen name that you can help other authors out with?
I think the hard part was trying to figure out what the name would be. Like I'd always called them Paula, but I didn't know what the rest of the name was going to be. So that took some research again, because I wanted to be searchable. If you type in Paula Jean Ferri, I am literally the only thing that pops up. You might get other people with like Paula Jean. You might get, because I'm obviously not going to be the only thing that pops up on Google. Google will pull anything and everything, but I'm always going to be first because I am the only combination of Paula and Jean and Ferri. So making sure that you're checking what the Google search results are going to be, making sure that I know some people have talked about making sure that it ties in with the genre that you're writing. So if you're writing romance, you might want something a little bit more romantic, as opposed to if you're writing children's book, you might make it a little bit more playful, because that's just much more fun and easier for kids to remember. I work part-time in an elementary school library. Kids have no idea who the author is. But if you had, and I know you can't use this because this is also on like a TV show, but Jeremy Bearimy would stick in kids' heads a little bit better. They might actually remember, oh yeah, because that was fun to say.
Right.
So making sure that you know who your audience is, and it's something that will be appealing to them, just as appealing as a title.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it always comes back to knowing who your audience is, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. So genre specific, if you're doing it for kids, fun to say. I think maybe for adults, we might make it fun to say, I don't know. I love that. I think this is great advice, because, how do you know what to do with a pen name if somebody doesn't teach you? I mean, we didn't know all this stuff starting out.
Yeah. I mean, even I remember trying to search like anything about pen names, and there really wasn't anything when I was trying to do this 5 years ago. There is more information now, just because I've gone back out of curiosity to check, and yeah, there is more information, but my first time through, there was nothing. I couldn't find anything. I went to several banks to ask about pen names, how that would work with a bank. And they had no idea either. Like it was like, this was a brand new thing, which I know it's not, but it was all just me trying to figure out the hows. So
it's funny how sometimes when you have an idea and it's a great idea, but then you don't know how to make it happen. And then you start looking for people, and they're like, I don't know either. Like it's almost like you can't find anybody. Oh, I love it. Oh my goodness. So you get the pen name, you get the bank stuff situated. I'll vouch for you. I typed in Paula Jean Ferri right before the podcast, and all of your books popped up on Amazon immediately. And
Perfect.
and it's funny because I try to do this most of the time with authors, especially I usually try to do a little bit more research before. Sometimes I'm like today I'm sitting on the couch with my wife watching Hamilton and I'm like, oh, I got a podcast, let's run in here and do it. But I'm like, oh my gosh, like this has to be the Paula Jean Ferri that I'm about to talk to, because there's no other one on here.
There's no other one.
Yeah. So
I made sure.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for making sure it's searchable and unique.
Yeah, for sure. And there's always a way to make things more unique. For example, one of the mentors that I've worked with in my writing and building my books and making them better is Richard Paul Evans. There's a lot of people named Richard. There's a lot of Richard Evans, but because he made it with his full name, the Richard Paul Evans, and he'll have a lot of abbreviations where it's RPE, that makes it a little bit more searchable, and he'll still come up on top as opposed to other Richard Evans or Rick Evans.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have multiple websites. I don't know how many domains I own at this point, but I'm going to do one with my name, Jeremy Sutton. But Jeremy Sutton is a painter. Anytime you type in that, you're going to pull up this guy. JeremySutton.com is a painter's website, but Jeremy C is my middle initial. There's nothing. And so that's what my website's going to be, Jeremy C. Sutton. I'm going to buy it before this goes live, so somebody can't go in and be like, hi, I got you.
Wise choice.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I love that because those are little things that authors probably don't think about a lot.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to change your name. You don't have to come up with a completely brand new pen name like I did, but just make sure that you're doing a search and making sure that you make a combination that will be unique to you and make you visible. That's hard to do in today's world. You need that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a million people out now. There's so many people self-publishing.
Yes.
You talk about you're going to write. One of the things you talked about early on was you're going to write some stuff about how you publish because so many people have asked you. Well, that's exactly what I'm about to finish writing, is a book about self-publishing. Well, guess what? There's going to be 50 more people write one about it. So you have to differentiate yourself. For
sure. But also at the same time, just because sometimes I like to play devil's advocate, that doesn't mean that someone else shouldn't write that because, so many people have.
Yeah.
If you're trying to learn about something, how many books do you buy on the topic? You're not going to buy just one and that's the be all end all. Like,
yeah,
the world always more. So keep that in mind as well.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've even had people, Paula, call me and say, hey, somebody else wrote this book I'm writing. I'm like, so what? They're not you. Write it.
Right. You don't have the same experiences. You don't have the same style. You don't have this. You're not the same person. It's going to be different and it's going to be okay.
Absolutely. I love that. And I tell people that all the time. So let's talk about the 3 books. How long did it take you to write each one of them?
I feel like that's a tricky question, especially given the fact that my first one was actually a college paper. And I sat on that saying, one day I'm going to expand it into a book for 3-4 years before I actually, I'm going to write a book. So I expanded it. The writing part doesn't take very long for me. It's the editing, it's the figuring out the publishing. So even though in 2015, I started with a half-written book, I didn't publish it until 2016.
Yeah.
And then my next one came out in 2018. Even though I had started right in, the next one came out in 2020. The writing part didn't take very long. It was always, waiting to hear back from editors, life happening.
Sure.
So I feel like it's a trick question. The writing doesn't take long.
Yeah, that's really the truth, though. Paula, is I want to call you Jessica, so I keep looking over at my notes to call you Paula. It's like
either way, like I said, as long as we explain it.
Interchangeable. Yeah, she doesn't have split personalities.
Right.
But it's like, I have 4 clients that I'm working with right now that all are going to have books published in the next couple of months. And almost all of their books are finished, but it's waiting on editing and formatting and cover design and things like that. That takes time because if you want it done right, you want to let somebody that's professional or knows what they're doing to do it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it would take 10 times as long if I were trying to do it myself. I at least know that much that I'm not even going to try because it took me long enough to figure out the stuff that I did have to figure out. I'm like, you know what? this knowledge is good. Let's outsource to someone who's already an expert.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny. I keep talking to so many people that know so much more about editing than I do. So I ordered the Chicago style manual. It's like 5 billion pages long, but I want to learn. So, I get it, and we'll link to that in the show notes so you can learn, people. But anyway, talk about how you're using your books.
Excuse me, that was Paula.
That was Paula. Amazing. And hang on, let me come right back. No, so I've never been scared before on a podcast until right now. So thank you.
I feel like I need to get into the horror genre because I have that reaction a lot. Oh, you scared me. And I'm like, didn't mean to. Maybe I should be in horror writing. I don't know.
I love it. So tell us how you're using your books to grow your business.
Oh, I feel like a lot of it is from the expertise that I've learned in doing it. But a lot of it is also mentality, which is something that I want to help people with, like having ideas to create the life that you want requires the right mindset. You're not going to make any kind of changes in your life unless you all three of these books tend to be the three biggest excuses that hold us back. I can't because I'm afraid. So we conquered the fear thing. I can't because my life is falling apart. Yeah, but you can put it back together. I can't because it's just so awkward. Awkward is actually a good thing. That's an advantage that you use. Again, you want to be visible. You want to be searchable. You want to be remembered for something. And people always remember me as, that screaming girl.
That's right.
These are all actually benefits and tools that you utilize to create ideas. You need these experiences because these experiences are what's going to grow and expand. They're going to give you ideas. You can't get ideas if you don't experience anything new. New ideas come from new experiences. So I've been utilizing those as tools and leverages, like, okay, this is going to be your first step. This is going to be your second step. This is your third step. Let's conquer your fear of staying stuck where you are so that we can get you moving into new ideas.
Yeah. I think we need to go back and for the listeners and say, go back. I say this almost every episode, rewind 15 seconds and listen to Paula say that again. You can't have new ideas if you don't have new experiences. I think that's valuable.
So key. So key.
Yeah. I mean, if you stay in the same group of, I think I grew up in a I grew up in a community, not even a town. And then I went to a very small private school, less than 400 people. And so I knew everybody. But, I left there and I didn't stay. But so many people grow up where they are. There's nothing wrong with this. I'm not being ugly. But you grow up, you stay in the same town and you meet the same people and nothing ever changes. And those people still do great things. But new people, new experiences, new schools, new towns, it just makes it better.
Another mentor that I've worked with, Richie Norton, he has some really great quotes. I mean, he's just very quotable all over the internet. I believe he was working with Stephen Covey, who told him, people claim to have 40 years experience. What they have is 1 year experience repeated 40 times. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be that person. I don't.
Yeah, I love that. That's a very powerful statement because like you said, how many people just do the same thing over and over and over again? And we're in Groundhog's Day,
Right.
It's great. I know what songs coming on the radio because I've lived it 305 times.
Right.
I love it. Paula, I love that you talk about the pen name and the problems with it, because I think that sheds so much light, because I know there's going to be somebody that listens to this that goes, I really was thinking about a pen name, but I have no idea how to do it. And now I know, okay, I'm going to go to the bank. I'm going to start a business. It's going to be this name. It's going to be fine. So I would love for you to give us another 3 to 5 tips for anybody that wants to write, publish, what would you tell them?
Oh, I actually have a couple of students that I'm telling this to. They'll write a sentence and then they'll delete it because they want to change it. Just get it all out. Just write it all out. And that's what editing is for. You go back and fix things, but you need to finish it first. Stop waiting for perfection, because that's not going to be possible on a rough draft. Just don't. Second piece of advice, trying to think of the things that I tell my students fairly often. I work part-time as an elementary school librarian as well. So like books. This is why. Not being afraid of what other people are going to say, I've already kind of touched on this as well, but that someone else has already done it, because they don't have your experience, they don't have your background, they don't have the details that you're going to put into it. You look at things like The Little Mermaid. How many times has The Little Mermaid or Cinderella been done and redone? But they're all so different, and they're all beautiful and cool, and it's amazing the different ways that you can tie this thing in. Like, I actually read a horror version of Cinderella that I was like, I never would have done that, but okay. Like, who would have thought? I love these alternate versions of the same thing, but people love it. And so people are going to come back for it. Like, it's almost an advantage that you need to take advantage of.
Yeah.
Third piece of advice: be excited about it. Have it be something that you're passionate about, like, because this is something new that you're creating. This is exciting. This is something that's never existed before. It's not going to be drudgery and difficult if you think about the exciting things that are coming, that you're doing, that are happening. Like, there are huge changes in place because you're starting. Nothing comes. I was actually thinking about this morning, slightly off topic, but also slightly parallel. People say, you can't just choose to be happy because that's suppressing your emotions. I think I disagree. And I get that there's things like depression, but like, you have to hear me out for the whole spiel. Okay. If you make a choice to be happy, it's not going to be an instant thing. If you make a choice to be happy, you have to be willing to work towards that result. That may mean getting on pills if you have depression. That may mean getting rid of some people in your life that are dragging you down. Chasing happiness is a process, but it does start with a choice. And it's a growth process. It's an expansion. It's all the good things that you want because you're making this one choice.
Yeah, I agree. No, I 100% agree. I mean, I do. I didn't know I had anxiety until a few years ago, but now it's very apparent in my life. I know what triggers it and things that happen. But I mean, medication, that's what it's there for. But yeah, you can make a conscious effort to be happy, a better person, a better spouse, husband, writer, business owner, whatever it is, and then take the steps to do that. So I agree with you 100% on that. So I love your tips. I actually wrote down 5 because I think there were 5 in there. Get it all out, finish it. Stop waiting for perfection. Don't be afraid of what other people say. Don't worry about writing what others have written because you're unique, and be excited about it. Let's talk about that a little bit more. Let's go a little bit more in depth about being excited about it. If you're ho-hum about your book, is anybody going to want to read it?
No, no. Although at the same time, I read something that like changed my life when I was doing some research on my book. You've read this a million times through. Like, it's exciting when you first do it, but by the time that you get towards the end of the writing process, you've read it a million times. You're not going to be as excited about it because it's so common to you at this point. It's the same as, putting on a t-shirt in the morning. Someone else hasn't read it yet. They're going to be excited about it still. So I think that's part of it as well, as not getting stuck in our own head of, well, they said if I'm not excited about it, no one else is going to be excited about it. Well, it's still new to them. So just make sure that you're doing something for yourself that keeps it new and exciting as you continue to work on it.
Yeah, I love that. I heard it on a podcast to tell your story every time you get on the podcast, or, even if you do 100 interviews, because that audience may not know your story. And so
absolutely,
exactly what you just said. Hopefully, the next book I write, thousands, maybe millions of people will read it, and it'll be new every time. But like I said, you'll read it 50 times before it's done. So you're good.
Right.
If you get sick of it, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
Right. You can still be excited about the process without feeling excited about a particular scene that may have excited you at the beginning, but that excitement does fade. The excitement is a temporary emotion. You have to find new things. Like, ooh, look at this new way that, like, this is what I have to like trick my mind with editing because I hate it so much. Like, ooh, that's a new way to say that. I like that a lot better. That's exciting. This is going to be so much more clear. I have to do stuff like this to like get through the editing process because
Sure.
I hate it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't want to edit anything either. Paula, oh my goodness, the second episode was just blew me away, and I may start screaming in all my podcast episodes because I think that was a great thing.
I'm so glad. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I love it. I'm not taking it out, by the way. That's you. It's staying in. Because
Perfect.
you want to be known as the girl who screams. So there you are. Paula, any last just advice or words of wisdom from you before we wrap up?
All I can think about is how much I love people that listen to podcasts like this. Like, I just love people. And I just get so overwhelmed with emotion and excitement and joy and love that's all I'm really feeling right now. So just feel my love for you, for the listeners, and that know that someone's rooting for you, someone's cheering for you.
Yes, I love that. Paula, tell us again one last time where we can find you if we want to learn more about you.
My website is paulajeanferri.com. That's where you'll see all of my different projects. Or my handle for all of my social media is at Jess Squeaks, JE 3 S's, SSSQUEAKS.
Love it. Thank you so much, Paula, for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Jeremy.